Hi, everyone. Welcome to this evening's session on the early start to the finance option. My name is Susan Raybosch, and I'm an academic advisor in the undergraduate office, also known as the UGO. I'm going to be kicking off today's session on the early start, and I'm going to be joined today by a number of my colleagues at Sauder, and I'm going to be introducing them shortly. I just want to let you all know that today's session is being recorded, and we will be posting the full presentation on the BCom website under the Early Start to the Finance Option webpage. So you can absolutely refer to this presentation after today. And if you know of anybody who wanted to attend the session but couldn't, they can absolutely access that on our website. So before we get started, though, I would like to acknowledge that the UBC Vancouver Point Grey campus is located on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam people. Oops, let me just go back here for a second. I jumped ahead. Give me a second to go back here. Okay, so today's session, we're going to cover a number of areas regarding the early start to the option. First, I'm going to introduce my colleagues, and then we're going to talk about why we are offering this early start to the finance option. This is brand new, so it's important to make sure that you're all well informed about what this is all about and why we've started this, this pathway to the option. I'm going to be talking a little bit about the eligibility requirements and the admissions criteria. Then we're going to review the finance option requirements. I'm going to talk about the courses that you're going to need to get registered in year 2 in order to be able to pursue the early start to the option. We're going to be talking about what it means, what we mean by capital markets and pursuing a career in that area, the key skills and attributes that are needed, understanding roles and the recruiting preparation that you will need to be doing, as well as various opportunities for involvement and gaining some experience. Then we're going to talk a little bit about whether this option pathway is the right fit for you or not. And then we'll end the session with a Q&A. And we'd like you to save your questions until the end of the session, just so that then, you know, it'll be easier to just address all the questions at the end. And we're going to ask that if you have specific questions regarding your individual situation, that you save those questions for another time to either set up an appointment with an academic advisor, myself or any other academic advisor in the undergraduate office, or if you have very specific questions about your, you know, anything to do with your career and something that's very specific to you, I would recommend that you set up an appointment with a career coach in the Business Career Center. So we're going to try and just really focus the Q&A on answering general questions about the early start to the option. Okay? All right, so people who are joining me today are two people from the Sauder Finance Division, Jan Benna, who's an associate professor, and he is also the Finance Division Chair and Bank of Montreal Chair in International Finance. We're also joined by Karen Lombard, and she is a lecturer in the Finance Division. Myself, Susan Raybosch, I'm an academic advisor in the undergrad office. Craig Kingsep is here today. He's let you into the session. He's just making sure that the Zoom session runs smoothly today, and he will be helping us during the Q&A. And then we also have from the Sauder Business Career Center, Michael Clark, who's a manager of BCom Careers, and Malcolm Smiley, who's a business development manager. So welcome, everyone. Okay, so I'm now going to hand it over to Jan, who's going to speak about why we are offering this early start to the finance option. Jan?
All right, thank you, Susan, for your kind introductions, and thank you for organizing this session. So in a way to announce this early start to the finance option, I would like to stress that's a response to how the job market in finance is developing. especially in terms of the timing when the internships in the careers that are related to capital markets are being offered. So these internships are often offered earlier. So these interviews then might happen for students in the third year in the program, if not earlier. So this program, what it allows, this allows students who are sort of certain about their careers, that in a way that they want to pursue these careers in capital markets, to take some of the key courses that will maybe help them to perform well at these interviews, like COM 298 or COM 370 earlier in the program. Okay, so this is this early start pathway to the finance option, the way we describe it, is mainly aimed at the students that are already before the year 2 of the program begins, that they are sure that they want to pursue careers in capital markets. So that's really the this pathway to the finance option is aimed for those who already made a choice, or they are kind of well informed about what their kind of thinking is, what they want to do in terms of careers. Okay, so the early start pathway really changes the timing of the finance option curriculum, and there is nothing more to it. So there's no other difference. There is no difference in terms of credits. There is no difference in terms of what sort of choices or courses are available. It's really the change in the timing of the curriculum, that for students that are certain that they want to go into the capital markets career, they can sort of take some of the courses earlier. Okay, I will also want to stress that that the world of finance is evolving rapidly and offering many novel opportunities beyond capital markets. So it doesn't mean that all the students kind of that are interested in finance need to go or are encouraged to go through this early start opportunity. It's totally fine to kind of choose for a finance later. And the sort of this diversity of opportunities in finance is kind of helping to kind of differentiate these students in terms of the choices they have. And in the way we want to facilitate this diversity of choices by kind of allowing different ways to kind of start the finance curriculum in the Sauder program. So that's basically the main rationale. It's a response to the job market, and that's kind of a response to students' needs. And then I will kind of ask Craig or Susan to introduce this early start pathway in terms of how is it implemented in the curriculum of the finance option.
Okay, thanks, Jan. Okay, so I guess what you need to know is what is required to be eligible for this early start to the option. So the key things here are, first of all, you need to be starting year 2 for the first time in 2021 winter. So I'm assuming most of you who are in attendance today are current year 1 students, and you will be promotable to year 2 starting 2021 winter. Anybody who's currently in year 2, this opportunity will not be available to them. So you will also need to make sure that you have the following courses completed before the end of term 1 of 2021 winter. COM 290, which I would imagine most of you have already done. You probably completed it in term 1, but if not, you would have time to complete it in term 1 of year 2. So that would need to be done. COM 293 is financial accounting, and that is typically taken by most year 2 students in term 1. So you would go ahead and take that in term 1 as well. I want to add, though, that COM 293 is being offered this summer, so that would be another opportunity to get it done in time for by the end of term 1. So 293 is offered in the summer, and in fact, actually, COM 290, if you haven't taken it already, it will also be offered this summer. 295 is managerial economics. Again, that's typically taken by year 2 students in term 1. So you could take that in term 1 like every other year 2 student, or we are also offering COM 295 in the summer as well. So it's your choice when you want to take it. So this is the big one that's a little bit different. And this is the COM 298 Introduction to Finance. This is a course that is typically taken in term 2 of year 2, but for the purpose of starting this early start to the option in finance pathway, you would need to take it in term 1 of year 2. And COM 298 is not offered in the summer. So the only opportunity to take it would be in term 1 of 2021 winter. So the other courses that you're going to need to complete is COM 291 and COM 294 in term 2 of 2021 winter. Those 2 courses are usually taken by most year 2 students in term 2. So, the 291 actually is not unless you're transferring in. So most of you actually would probably be taking 291 at the moment. But if for whatever reason you are not taking it now, you could take it in either term 1 or term 2 of 2021 winter, but the 294 is typically taken by most year 2 students either in the summer or in term 2 of their second year. So you just need to make sure those 2 are done by the end of term 2 of 2021 winter. The other thing is that you're going to need to make sure you're eligible for promotion to year 3 at the end of 2021 winter. I have a link there to the promotion requirements for year 3. I'm not going to go through them now. They're on our website, but they're fairly straightforward. You just need to ensure that you are in fact promotable to year 3 at the end of 2021 winter. And then the last piece to the eligibility is submitting a 2-part application. The first part must be submitted after you have successfully registered in COM 298 in term 1. And this is a condition of you remaining registered in that term 1 section. We want to make sure that the students who are choosing COM 298 in term 1, in fact, know why they want to be doing the early start, and that is their intention. We don't have the luxury of space to allow everyone to just choose it, even if they're not going to be choosing the early start to the option. So we want to make sure the people that in that term 1 section are in it for the right reasons. Otherwise, you can simply take COM 298 in term 2, which is when most year 2 students complete that course. And then the final piece to this is part 2 of the application to the program, which would need to be submitted sometime by the end of term 1. We haven't determined that date yet, but we will be contacting people who are registered in the term 1 section of COM 298 to let them know when the application submission would need to be made. And I'm thinking it would probably be around the end of November timeframe, but we will get back to students and let them know. Okay, so once you've met the eligibility requirements, then we are also looking at these specific admissions criteria for admission. And because there's going to be limited space in this early start to the option pathway, it's going to be a little bit competitive. We are thinking that we'll probably have between 45 to 50 seats for students to take the early pathway. Otherwise, students who want to do the finance option can, simply start the option in year 3. I mean, year 3 is when most students actually could start their option in the BCom program. So, if you don't get into the early start, you can, and you're really interested in finance, you can absolutely start the option at the beginning of 3rd year. So what we're going to be looking at for the criteria is a minimum grade of 65% in COM 290, 293, and 295. We're going to be looking at a minimum grade of 75% in COM 298, which is the Introduction to Finance course. And I'm just going to add that COM 298 is a prereq for all of the 3rd year finance option courses. So this is an important course. And then we're going to be doing an overall average of those 4 courses, and we're going to be looking at a minimum of 76%. And that aligns with the minimum average required to actually get into the option in year 3. That's the cutoff average to get into the finance option if you were to choose it in year 3. So that 76% aligns with that cutoff average. And then finally, we will be looking and reviewing the responses to the application questions. So this is what's going to make up the the requirements and the criteria for admission into this early start pathway to the option. So I'm just going to quickly go over what the finance option requirements include. So this is what most year 3 students, who up until now, when they do choose the finance option, these are the courses that they are required to take. Comp 298 is actually, it's a prereq for all of the, third year courses, and Comp 298 is a requirement of all BCom students, but it's what is normally taken in term 2 for most students, term 2 of year 2. And then in year 3, a finance option student would take 370 and 371 in term 1, and they would take 374 in term 2. And then year 4 is comprised of an additional 6 credits of any one of these upper year finance courses. So it's the option itself is 15 credits through these 3 courses in year 3 and 2 more in year 4. And then all students in the program would have to complete 298. And as I said, most of students do it in term 2. The difference here, if we compare it to the early start to the finance option, is you're actually bumping up 298 to term 1. And we're going to bump up 370 from year 3 into term 2 of year 2. So there's where the early start is. There you're doing the 298 in term 1, and you're doing 370 in term 2 of year 2. Year 3 looks pretty similar as far as 371 and 374 are concerned. You're still doing 371 in term 1 like every other finance student in third year, and you're still doing the 374 in term 2. The only other difference is those remaining 6 credits in the early start to the finance option allow students to complete them in either year 3 or year 4. So you have a choice there. You could potentially do one of these courses in year 3 and finish the final one in year 4. You could do both in year 3, or you could do both in year 4. Okay, so the courses themselves are identical. It's just the timing of them that's different. Okay, so what do you need to know about registration in the required courses in year 2? So as I mentioned earlier, in order to be eligible to start in the finance option, you need to try and register yourself in a term 1 section of 298. Normally, year 2 students would take 298 in term 2. So most of the sections that we offered, that we'll be offering, will be in term 2. There will only be 2 sections of COM 298 offered in term 1, and registration will be on a first come, first served basis, depending on your 2021 registration date and time. So that date and time is determined by your 2020 winter average, which includes all courses that you've taken from September of 2020 to April 2021. So what you're in right now is going to determine what your overall average is, and that's going to give you your registration date and time. So the higher your 2020 winter average, the earlier your registration date and time. And so that's where the first come, first served basis comes into effect here, is that the higher the average, the better chance you have of being able to access one of these term 1 sections of COM 298. If you are planning on taking any courses in 2021 summer session, so this upcoming summer session, just know that none of those courses will be included in your average for determining your 2021 registration date and time. It's only based on everything you've taken from September to April, okay? So you're gonna try and register for term 1 section of 298. What happens if you're not able to get in to a section? What we suggest that you do is you register yourself in a term 2 section for the time being, because you're gonna need to take it anyway. Everybody else is gonna be registering in the term 2 sections. And then you can add yourself to a wait list for a term 1 section. And if any seats become available from the time you put yourself on the wait list until the beginning of the term, the UGO will prioritize registration into a term 1 section based on your previous winter session average or your 2020 winter session average. So we will continue to add students where we can from the wait list into the term 1 section. And we will notify you when we are able to do that. If you're not able to get into a term 1 section, but you're still interested in finance, by all means, you can start the finance option at the start of year 3. We still will have over 200 students that will be choosing the option at the start of year 3. So the other finance course that you will need to be registered in term 2 is COM 370 Corporate Finance. And so you will not be able to register yourself. You will only be registered at the time you're accepted to the early start to the option. And so our office will be registering students into that course. But of course, we'll need to be reviewing the admissions criteria first before we can determine who will get access to that course. So this is going to be done in a very quick turnaround time at the end of December, early January, because we can't make any decisions until we see your final grades in those term 1 courses. And we're going to need to do the calculation of the averages, and we're going to be reviewing the applications. So we're going to have that quick turnaround, but as soon as we decide who is accepted in, we will be registering you before the start of term 2 into COM 370 and advising students that they've been admitted to the early start to the pathway, to the finance option pathway. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to Michael and Malcolm to talk a little bit more about the career side of this and capital markets. And I'll hand it over to you.
Hi, thanks very much, Susan. And thanks everybody for having both myself and Malcolm here. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Michael Clark. I'm one of the BCom coaches at the Career Center. And Malcolm Smiley is my counterpart in the business development side, working with the finance students. We've been working together about 5 or 6 years now, unbelievably. We want to go over some ideas for you to think about when you're thinking about taking this as a possible option. The first thing is when we talk about capital markets, what are we really talking about? Because finance itself has so many career options within it that this investment banking or the capital market side of things is just one portion of it. And when we start talking about those, we refer to things like investment banking or sales and trade, corporate finance, the buy side of private equity or venture capital. We talk about equity research or impact investing or social investing, investment management, portfolio management, equity research. These are terms that get thrown around a lot at Sauder. I call them those golden baubles that got put in front of you all over the place. This is what you hear about most. And this is what we're thinking of when we think of you in terms of being interested in this option. So if you're interested in these types of areas, we want you to explore a little bit more what those areas look like to be sure that this is something that you're actually interested in. Why don't we go to the next slide? This is something that you should be thinking about as well, or on top of all the schoolwork that you're going to be expected to do, is that there's going to be a lot of time spent prepping to understand what it is you, at this moment, think you want to get involved with. Malcolm and I have seen a lot of students come through who want to get into investment banking without really doing the research necessary to understand what it is they're getting themselves into. And this is something that you want to be sure about before coming into this option. The first piece is, of course, the gathering of information, the research. Most of you probably haven't taken COM 202, so you haven't really been exposed to the idea of informational interviews or coffee chats. You probably haven't even been exposed to our toolkits that are found on the MyBCom site. One of those toolkits is informational interviews. It's a great read. I could talk to you about an hour and a half about it, or you can read it through and come to ask me questions in a one-on-one appointment. Take a lot less time. But the point behind it is that you're going to want to get in front of as many people from as many of those different areas as possible over the summer. Whether that means them being alumni, current senior students who have already gone through some of those experiences that you are thinking about going through, or just people that you know who are already in the industry. So it could be alumni, or it could be just business professionals. The other piece is the piece about reading online. You're going to want to do a lot of research into these different areas to become familiar with the language, and to be able to make sure that you're showing up in the right way in front of these individuals who you're going to have coffee chats with to gain more information about these areas. You're also going to be wanting to put in some time into growing some individual skills. You can get those skills through involvement with finance-related clubs, competitions and events that we'll be going over in a little bit. There's also opportunities for increasing those technical skills that everybody's talking about with online courses such as the Marquee Group or Simple Model. These are great ways for you to dip your toe into these areas and practice some of those hard skills that you're going to be expected to show as you go through the process of interviewing with people in the investment banking or commercial or capital market side of things. As well, you have an opportunity to meet with coaches like myself. I'm here all summer. So I have appointments all summer long. So if you ever want to drop in and have a conversation because you're setting up a meeting with somebody, you're looking to make connections with people to have those coffee chats, I'd be more than happy to sit down and have those conversations with you. You can also talk to our career peer advisors who are still have appointments right now. They're senior students who, again, have gone through that experience that you're looking to go through. Tiffany, who's already had her full-time offer in IB, and Victoria on the capital market side, on the sales and trade side of things. So you can also make appointments with them to hear from a student's perspective what it is that you should be learning before making the decision. Attending company information sessions will be super important. Malcolm works very hard at putting, I don't know how many. Malcolm, how many did we have for just finance this year?
It's about 70 to 75 on an average year. It's been closer to 120 this year because we've had this virtual environment to work in. So companies who normally wouldn't travel to UBC have been hosting virtual sessions. So we've seen a lot more of those company engagement sessions in the virtual environment from that side of things.
So this is all to basically tell you that you really have to start to know know and understand your why you want to be involved in this area. It's not for everyone, and you may think it is, but by doing the research and educating yourself, you will make a stronger decision moving forward. Karen has often mentioned, there are many opportunities outside of this. But this is something that you can be expecting to do over the summer, but also during the school year. And I mention that because we do know that the academic requirements that you will be expected to complete and complete at a high level will take up a lot of your time. However, it is just an expectation that all those other things I was talking about are also done at the exact same time. So your first year was tough, your second year is going to be tougher, but you also have to carve out time for all of this if you think you're going to be successful in the capital markets or banking area. I'd like to pass it on to Malcolm. He's going to talk a little bit about the business point of view of why this program might be helpful for you.
Yeah, thanks, Michael, and yeah, welcome everyone. While Michael works on the student side when it comes to the appointment and talking about what you're looking to do, I work on the employer side. So I rarely do. The only time I would actually see students is when I'm interviewing them for our finance mentorship program, which I'll talk about shortly. So I really work with all the major banks, the investment firms, the bulge bracket companies, everyone who's in that finance sector. And Michael's already talked to you about what a wide spectrum that covers. But particularly I work closely with those capital markets recruiters who are looking to talent ID the brightest and best early on in the recruiting cycle. And it used to be that there was, I'm going to say some sanity to that. from an industry side of things 4 or 5 years ago, where we wouldn't see summer or internship postings till the January before the company was hiring, and that would be all the major banks. So they wouldn't post those opportunities. They wouldn't post them till late fall. And then they do first round interviews before Christmas, second round interviews after Christmas. And this is all aimed at third year students. And what we've seen over the last few years is an earlier and earlier pushback onto those deadlines and a land rush for talent from the major banks. And each one of them kind of blames the other one or blames the US and so on. But the reality is that they want to be talking to students who fit that criteria of high performing individuals, and not only from the technical side of things, from the communication side of things, early on in their careers, early on in their academic careers. And so from that point of view, I think this is a great step forward for the business school to help students who are really focused in this area. And that this is going to help with that connection piece, because a big part of the career path is landing one of these summer internships with the major banks, investment firms, and so on. They use them as a 4-month job interview, and then convert those summer internship opportunities into full-time offers from that side of things. And so what we're trying to do here is get you best prepared for the shot and shell that comes with capital markets recruiting, because it's a very, very harsh environment. And the better prepared you are, not only technically through the courses that we offer, but also on the behavioural side of things, the better place you're going to be to land one of those positions. And that's not to say it's impossible to land one, later on in your academic career. This is just going to make it more possible for you to do it a little bit earlier with that technical knowledge that we normally, would be screening for later on in the latter part of your second year. Michael and I oversee a finance mentorship program where we match students with industry professionals between May and October to get them more recruitment ready for applying for those summer roles. But we're already seeing summer 2022 summer internships being posted. So that, so the goalposts keep moving. And I think this is a great response to that. And so in terms of one of the other advantages of being in that mix and being on the front foot when it comes to connecting with those recruiters is also, I say, potentially to be considered for early admission to the finance mentorship program. It's probably preferred admission. If we see that you've been admitted into the early finance option when you apply for the finance mentorship program at this time of year, when if you were a second year student, you'd be applying now, then that's going to be a real highlight star for us in terms of that application. It might not be the be all and end all, but it's certainly going to be something we're going to be looking at, because having the ability to connect with somebody in industry and have them kind of talk to you about what's required from your individual perspective to get to that point where you're going to get the interview and be able to land the internship is going to be key. And a big part of that is just showing the the appetite and background that you have from that technical point of view. So that's where it's going to really, I think, benefit you. I mean, the codicil to this is that you really need to be sure that the capital market space is for you. And there'll be that's going to be a difficult job for Karen and Jan to screen through from that side of things. It's hard enough for Michael and I to do it with 70 odd students applying for the finance mentorship program. So so it's going to be a tough job to do, but there are ways of doing it, and that that's something I'll let Jan and Karen possibly talk about during one of the breakout rooms. But that's where I would see the key advantages and opportunities for students in terms of taking this option. It might not be for everyone, but certainly consider it as part of your next step as you prepare for more exams and the rigors of April to come. So anyway, Michael, let's say that I think that that sums up those key aspects from my point of view, certainly from the industry side. But you have some other resources for students to work with in terms of that career exploration side of things.
Thanks, Malcolm. A great explanation of what the industry is going through now, what they're looking for. Thanks. Our biggest thing is for you to educate yourself and to see if this is the right step for you right now. These are just a few, but not exhaustive list of different online resources for you. And I'm really excited about this, by the way, Susan, I didn't mention it right away, but usually it takes me a long time to see 75 students, because this is my spiel for all 75 students that I see about what they should be doing when they have these questions of, Michael, I think I'm interested in, what should I be reading? Who should I be talking to? So this is, as the people who've showed up today, you're getting all this without actually having to come see me. And maybe when you see me next time, we'll have a little bit of a higher level conversation on what that looks like. But this is a combination of both Sauder specific resources, such as Cool. I know that there's job postings on Cool, but you may not know that under the job postings, there's also a section called archived jobs. And that's a listing of all the jobs that have been posted in the last year to year and a half on Cool. And it is a fantastic resource because you can go into all of the job postings, whether it was co-op, summer, full-time, and start doing some reading on the qualifications, the specifications, the different companies that are hiring in these positions, to have a clear understanding of what those skill sets are that you're going to be expected to produce and what those expectations from the companies are. We also have online resources that you already pay for, by the way, such as Vault, Glassdoor. These are, if you go onto the My BCom Cool page, My BCom page, on the right-hand side, halfway down, you're going to see online resources. This is part of your student fees. You can get free access to Vault and to Glassdoor to really start looking at the Vault guides that talk about all the different areas of capital markets and interview prep. As well, you have the company websites that you should be visiting, the specific company websites. But there's also finance specific resources to educate yourself, such as the sell-side handbook, the Vault guides I mentioned already, Investopedia. A simple model and the Marquee Group offer online technical courses. Take a look at them, see what they are, see what the expectations of those skill sets you're going to be expected to work with. Something like the CSI career map. I encourage everyone to go onto the just type in CSI career map and take a look at what's really out there in the financial world to get a better perspective of where this investment banking or capital markets area fits into the overall picture of financial services. These are some online resources that you should be looking at and reading. The news and podcasts are great for keeping up to date on what's in, are you finding what's coming out of these sites on the news and podcasts on BNN or Seeking Alpha? Are you finding that information interesting? That'll be a good indicator of this is an area that you're really wanting to pursue. If it doesn't interest you, what you're reading on here, it's probably not an area that you're going to be interested in working in. Along with the online resources, there are opportunities as well that Sauder puts on specifically. And that's our next slide. And those three, one's already been mentioned. Malcolm's already mentioned our finance mentorship program. And the other one, which is the mentorship program where you're matched with a finance industry professional. The other one is the capital markets training program, which we are currently working with the Marquee Group, who is doing all of the training for the investment banking interns in the Toronto area in the major banks. They're doing all the training for them. They're also providing our program this year, our technical program, as well as the Portfolio Management Foundation program. Unfortunately, it wasn't run this year due to COVID, but I'm sure it'll be back in on full speed ahead by next term. Those are three specific opportunities that Sauder offers. If you're looking to get more involved in your first semester, or even now, I'm not sure if there's any other events on, but on the next slide, we have a list of Student-led clubs. Most of you know things like UBCFA or the trading group, West Peak, but there are others like Compounding for a Cure, the Point Grey Investment Club. JDC West is a great opportunity for you. ASIC is an awesome Association of Canadian Intercollegiate Investment Clubs. These are just a few of the opportunities of clubs that are available to you to take part in, to meet with others, people who are like-minded, right at the beginning of the second semester. As well, there's competitions such as the Lynn Davies Investment Competition. There's the NIBC, CFA, as well as stock pitch competitions that are just too many to name here. Things to get involved with in your at the beginning of that second semester, or the beginning of your second year, to try out these things to make sure that this option is going to be right for you. Okay, I provided you a ton of resources. You can also come and see myself at the Career Center through Cool. But there's a couple of questions that you really should be asking yourself, because as I mentioned already, you're going to have to commit a lot of time to these coffee chats, attending CISs, getting involved with clubs, the online learning that you're going to do, as well as the educational part. And are you ready to make that full commitment? Are you committed to maintaining your grades during this time? Susan and I have had a couple of conversations about that. It's this super heavy, super quantitative year and a half for you. A lot of these courses were pushed to your third year. Now they're all combined in that second year and into the third year. And you really have to be willing to put in the time to maintain those grades in those classes while you're doing all these other things as well. The last piece is something that you should be asking yourself, because there's more than one way to get into this area. A lot of students actually need a longer runway. And I mean, they need more time to really figure it out what it is that they want to do. There are many ways to get there. Prior to this option, there have been very many successful students, third, even fourth year students who were able to land internships in the capital markets areas after not even starting in that area, after just coming from another direction, whether that be accounting, whether that be from marketing, because I know people who come from the marketing side who are also in investment banking right now. So there are other opportunities for you to experience other things as well, if that's what you need right now. A lot of people go through co-op. Maybe they aren't completely sure of what they want to do, and that's okay. I'm actually always surprised when somebody is completely sure about this right now, because there is so much out there to explore. And hopefully if you've come today, you've taken it seriously that you're going to have to put in some work to really learn about the different options, and ask yourself some of those self-reflective questions about what it is that you really want to experience and get out of university right now. This is not something to be rushed through. It just provides individuals with a little more information and skill set if they want to start on this pathway a little bit earlier. But don't feel like you have to dive headfirst into investment banking or capital markets today. You probably have to start on the research side, but there's been a lot of people who've been very successful before this program ever came in. So not to say not to come into this program, because that's not what I'm saying, but really take that time to take a step back, understand what's important for you, understand your why, that you want to get involved so quickly into this area, and maybe it's for you. But don't listen to everybody else. All these golden baubles, sales and trade, iBanking, consulting, everything's going to be difficult to choose until you start prioritizing what's important to you and self-reflecting on those pieces. That will make your choices in the area of capital markets or wherever else you choose to go a lot easier. And this is a conversation that I have with first year, second year, third year, fourth year students. you have to understand your why. And you have a summer and another semester to really figure that out before choosing this as your program. Thanks for listening, and I invite you to book an appointment with me and we'll have a chat. Thanks.
Yes, thank you so much, Michael and Malcolm. So I guess that takes us to the end of the session where we can open it up for questions and answers. We did receive a few questions through the survey that we sent out. So maybe I'll start by answering some of these questions that we received. And then if you have some questions you'd like to ask and you'd like to put them into the chat, we can go through those as we receive those. But in the meantime, I'm just going to answer these few questions that we did receive from students. Can I finish my degree early and graduate in 3 years? It would be possible to do that, but you have to keep in mind you're still doing 121 credits. So the 121 credits is typically taken over 4 years. So the only way you could finish your degree in 3 years is if you came in with a whole bunch of transfer credits and you loaded up your summer terms by taking courses. So, you know, the purpose of the early start to the option is not to finish your degree in 3 years. It's just to, you know, take some of those finance courses a little bit earlier. So typically what would happen is you'd probably be postponing some of your elective credits to your 4th year. But it is, you know, you are still required to complete the 121 credits for the BCom degree. Another question we got was, do I still need to take the other foundational courses for the other options in year 2, like marketing, BTM, and accounting? Well, those courses are required of everybody. And so we recommend that you do the foundational courses in year 2, so you can discover and find out whether those other areas might be of interest to you as well. So until you take some of these intro level courses in accounting, BTM, marketing, you know, you won't know for sure whether maybe you want to pursue those areas for your option instead of the finance. And again, I mean, you know, you could postpone a couple of those if you wanted to, if you felt like your course load was going to be too heavy in year 2. But if you were to do that, I would really recommend that you meet with an academic advisor in the undergrad office to talk about that kind of course planning. Another question we got was, can I still be considered for early start if my grades are below the minimum for admission? And my answer to that right now is no, it's not likely we would be considering students who don't meet the minimums. I think it might be quite competitive to get in. We only have 45 to 50 seats this year. So I would imagine we would expect students to meet the minimums for admission. So I don't know whether we have any other questions that have come in.
No questions yet, Susan.
Okay.
On that question to come in, Susan, the idea of finishing early, by the way, you may need 1 to 2, and I've seen sometimes 3 recruit seasons needed for people to land in the capital markets. As well, you have to understand that 90 to 95% of roles in the capital markets are offered to people who complete their internships. So if you're trying to rush through your degree, chances are you're going to get only one opportunity to land some sort of role in the area of capital markets. And like I said, a lot of people go through 2, sometimes 3 recruit seasons before they're actually successful. So not something you would want to really consider at this point if you're truly interested in getting into that area.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so first question, what do you think about taking COM 271 and starting the option early at the same time?
That is possible. As I understand, COM 271 is in term 1, so that would be quite a heavy course load in term 1. However, you could, take, like I mentioned, COM 293 and 295 in the summer, so that would lighten it a bit, and that would actually help you figure out whether capital markets might be the right fit for you. So 271 would absolutely be possible, and still, you could still try and pursue the early start. So you would be doing 271 and 298 in term 1 of year 2. And you can also choose 271 and choose not to do the early start and just do the regular finance option in 3rd year. That's another alternative.
Okay, next question. Can we take COM 293, 294, 295, and 298 in the first term of year 2?
290, can you tell us?
293, 294, 295, and 298.
Okay, so you can take 293, 295, and 298 in term 1. You cannot take 294 because 294 has a prerequisite of 293. So if you do 293 in the summer, then you could do 294 in term 1. Or if you take 293 in term 1 of the winter session, then you could take 294 in term 2.
Okay, can I still do a double option if I do the early start, like for example, finance and BTM?
Yes, you could. I mean, I would then sort of, how I would see that playing out in your degree is you would start with the early start to the finance option in year 2, year 3, and potentially you could get started on a second option in term 2 of your 3rd year. And finish it off in your 4th year, or you could extend your degree by an extra term or an extra year to complete a second option. Typically, second options are not meant to be done in 1 year. They're typically spread out over 2 years. So you just need to make sure that you would allow yourself the time to be able to do that. But it would be possible, and second option courses count towards your elective credits.
Okay, is the 76% average requirement an average among only COM 290, 293, 298, and 295, or do we need an average of 76% across all the courses we take?
No, just those 4, as well as the minimum averages in, as I mentioned, 65% in 290, 293, and 295, and then you would need a minimum of 75% in COM 298, but it does not include any other courses.
Can I take finance as a minor if I am not sure about taking finance as a major?
Well, the program isn't designed, the BCom program isn't designed to allow students to do a minor in another subject area in business. Minor is 18 credits of upper level coursework in a specific subject area. And the way the BCom program is designed, you can only do a minor outside of the faculty. But having said that, you can take, typically because there's such high demand for the finance courses, the students who get into those finance option courses typically need to be choosing finance as their primary option. So if you're wanting to do finance as your option, we recommend you choose it as your option. There wouldn't really be an opportunity to minor because there's not a lot of seats open to non-option students.
Can we take summer courses like COM 204 and 205 if we plan to take COM 293 and 295 in term 1 of our 2nd year?
Yep, absolutely.
Can I just chip in about coursework and potentially taking on too much too soon? Bear in mind, if you're going to be applying for one of these summer internships we talked about, that one of the aspects that they'll be involved in the screening is the companies will be looking at your grades. They'll be looking at transcripts and they look at that as a performance indicator. So just bear that in mind, that if you're trying to cram in, too many courses into term 1 as you're doing everything else around what Michael was talking about in terms of networking, events, and so on, you can't afford to let your grades slip. Job 1 is good grades. Whether you take finance now or you take finance later, that's really key from that side of things. So that's just a little watchword in terms of you really can't afford to have a below standard grade on your transcript when it comes to the screening side of things. It's not the be all and end all from that side of things, but it is looked at. So just a word to the wise there.
I'll just add a little more onto that. Keeping your marks up is paramount. But on a resume, they're also looking for your involvement and something that screams finance on your resume, which you will be looking to put on either over the summer or in that first semester of your second year. So that's even more time that you're going to have to be prioritizing, not only to your school, but to these other areas, if you're really going to want to stand out. Not
Hey.
trying to say that the marks aren't important, because they are, but there's other things that they also look for, not just your marks. Just as if you're a 90 student, that doesn't guarantee you that they're going to want to take a look at you. These other things also have to be on your resume for them to see that you're truly interested in the area of finance.
Yeah, let me maybe add to this. I think this transpires the sort of the whole presentation we did today for you. So which is this belief and the knowledge that we know that this superior sort of and unique student learning in finance is achieved by this practice being reconciled with the academic theory. So that's what Malcolm and Michael was talking about, right? This process of practice of reconciling business practices, techniques used in the industry with the academic theory that we cover in the courses. So, and the second thing that they sort of mentioned which is pretty important, is just this learning from personal interactions and meaningful relationships that you're gonna need to be establishing with the professionals. So that's what this presentation overall was about, and also that's what this early finance, early start to the finance option is about, just to mix the courses with these other experiences that will allow you to be successful in the internships, and therefore allow you to pursue the careers of your choice. So.
By the way, when I mentioned, senior students and alumni, and don't forget about your professors. Karen, I don't want to put 75 people on your LinkedIn right away, but Karen and Darren DeGraff are two professors that I've had a long-standing relationship with, that I send a ton of students to, because they have a lot of experience in the area. Karen especially has a diversity of experiences that may or may not push you one way or the other, but it's definitely a conversation worth having if Karen actually has time after so many people email her. But so be patient if you do.
I can just add something there. This is important to the finance division. So I think we're willing to put in time. And if you want to reach out, I happen to be a CPA, CFA, so I'm a finance and accounting person. So I tend to get students that are talking to me that are not sure between the options. So, whether it's second years talking to me or first years talking to me, I'm happy to have those discussions. And Michael knows he sent a few people my way as well. So looking forward to you guys getting in touch, and by all means, reach out to me either by email or LinkedIn.
Okay, so we have a question about the admissions process. So once you meet the admission average, will you be considered by GPA, or would admission be more heavily based on your written application at that point?
Well, I think we're going to be looking at those equally. So we'll be weighing them equally, just as we did for admission to the BCom program. We look at both.
Okay, our next question, how many seats are typically available for summer courses like COM 293? I think I can answer that. COM 293 specifically, there'll be 2 sections that are about 115 students each. Other courses vary depending on the number of sections and seats in the courses, but you will be able to see what we're offering this summer on Friday on the Student Service Center. Next question, if for those in the Bucks program, would it be possible to do this program simultaneously and have finance as a second specialization, and these credits count as our elective credits as well?
That's a good question. Okay, so with Bucks, do you only have room to take, I think, 1 elective? Maybe 2?
Yeah.
2 electives. So that doesn't leave a lot of space for taking the option. I think it's going to be way too much. The Bucks program in itself is very demanding. And this particular program is very demanding up front with all the research that needs to be done, you know, that Malcolm and Michael were talking about. I just don't think that would be a good thing to pursue. And like I said as well, you only have room for 2 electives. So if anybody in Bucks who's trying to do an option as well is extending their degree and taking extra courses beyond their credit requirements to fulfill that. So I think you really need to think hard about what area you want to be in, either computer science or finance.
Okay, since the seats for the early start option are limited, if the number of people who apply greatly exceeds the amount, does it mean even if our average is greater than 76%, it's not guaranteed for admission?
Absolutely correct. That's a minimum. So it is competitive. So we'll be looking for those minimums. But if, you know, if we need to go to, you know, higher GPAs in order to, you know, fill those 50 seats, we can't guarantee something for everyone. If we have 100 people, let's say, that are meeting the minimum, we just don't have the seats. So aim high is all I can say for your grades.
Okay, does anyone else have any additional questions? Okay, it looks like that's about it.
Okay, great. All right. Well, I'm so glad you were able to join us today and learn a little bit more about this exciting new early start to the finance option pathway. As I mentioned, thank you for everybody from Sauder who joined in and contributed to the session today. And if you have any questions, please reach out to the undergraduate office if you have any questions regarding, you know, the academic side of this program. On the career side, the Business Career Center would be who you could reach out to. And then, of course, to the finance division. Karen Lombard offered her time to be able to, help students and answer their questions. So please take advantage of all of us to be able to answer your questions regarding this new program. So thank you again. And I hope that we're able to talk to you a little bit about this in the near future. Take care.